Hello everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 178. Boy, we haven't talked about the Prince of Punk Asses in quite some time, huh? The Prince of Lies, modern day Joffrey, aka Dirty Ass Prince Andrew. Well, he's back in the news today, folks, and he's refusing to appear on a U.S. TV show to talk about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I told you that this was going to be the case. The second he recruited that new law team, all of those high-profile crisis PR firms, etc., there was zero chance that this man was ever going to sit back down for another interview without it being something that was compelled, meaning subpoenaed or forced to sit in front of the investigators. He's not going to sit down with a journalist after what happened with Emily Maitlis. I mean, if he didn't have all of this help, well, the Prince of Punk Asses is just stupid enough he might try it, but his legal team is going to prevent it. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody who's been following the case or following the way Prince Andrew rolls. This is just how he is. He's a liar. He is not honorable, he is deceitful, and he has just proven time and time again that his word does not mean squat, especially when it comes to his actions in regards to the accusations against him by Virginia Roberts. So we're going to jump into this article. It's from the Mirror. The headline is, Prince Andrew refuses to appear on U.S. TV to discuss Jeffrey Epstein friendship. This article was written by Christopher Buckton. Prince Andrew has refused to appear on U.S. TV to discuss his friendship with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, look, don't expect him to do any interviews, U.S. or otherwise. This guy is certainly not going to get on TV with a seasoned reporter at this point. Emily Maitlis took him apart piece by piece, systematically dismantled this man. And his high-priced lawyers are certainly not going to be party to that. They're not going to put this guy in front of a reporter, just like he would never, if he got arrested and it went to trial, he would never testify. They would never ever put him on the stand, considering the way he conducted himself in that interview with BBC. No lawyer worth a damn would ever put a client like this bumbling fool on the stand, because he would be exposed. Imagine a seasoned lawyer like Bradley Edwards or David Boies or, insert lawyer here. They would take him apart piece by piece. The Duke of York, 60, who quit royal duties over his relationship with the sex offender, has been formally asked to talk about Epstein on a cable network series. Again, it's a good thought, and I think that, you got to give props to Reels for stepping out and, Lifetime for stepping out and trying to get him on the record and trying to get him to talk, but it was always, a shot in the dark, right? There's zero chance that Andrew is going to be allowed at this point to further endanger his freedom by running his big fat yap. Insiders say Andrew, who had a disastrous interview on BBC Newsnight, was warned by lawyers to avoid others. Of course, right as the interview was happening, we did it real time pretty much on this podcast. And as the interview was happening, I was telling you it was a disaster. There's zero chance that this man is ever going to be in front of the cameras again to talk about this situation or his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. You can just forget about it. Anybody who thinks that's going to happen, just forget about it. It's never going to occur. The only way we're ever going to hear from Andrew in regards to this case ever again now is if he's subpoenaed, if he's forced to testify. That is the only way we'll ever hear from him ever again in this case. I mean, come on. And look, at the end of the day, that's what his lawyers are paid to do. That's the advice that his lawyers are giving him. That's the proper advice, because this is a guilty man, in my opinion. You don't want him to dig that hole even deeper, but this is certainly not an honest man. The man sitting in front of Emily Maitlis certainly wasn't an honest man, in my opinion. You have a man sitting there who talks about, oh, I don't sweat, I was at the pizza joint. Give me a break, all right? Nobody's buying any of that shit. You're not an honorable guy. We don't care what kit you were wearing that night or any of the other bullshit. Okay? You're a liar. It's obvious. Your lawyers even know you're a liar. That's why they're not going to put you on the stand. TV channel Lifetime is making a 4-part documentary that will look at Epstein's life, business, and social circle. Insiders claim they have spoken to ex-employees as well as survivors who have filed civil lawsuits against him. I haven't heard much as far as, the inside scoop on this documentary. I don't have any inside information or pull or leverage with the people that are producing it, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting, right? Most of these documentaries, even if it goes over stuff that we already know, and most times it does, since we're so rabid about this case, and everyone listening to this podcast, we're following this case on a daily basis. So a lot of times the information in these documentaries is kind of a refresher course for us. But that's okay, because how many times do we miss things on the initial reporting, right? How many times do we have to go back and look at an article and say, oh, that's what we're talking about? So it's always nice when these documentaries come on, and then every now and then you're surprised because there's a nice nugget of good information. So hopefully in this new documentary we'll get some of that, but either way I'm interested to see how it's presented and how the story is told. Surviving Jeffrey Epstein is the working title of the project by the network that first publicized allegations of sexual abuse and assault against singer R. Kelly in 2019 with Surviving R. Kelly. I still haven't watched that documentary. I heard it's pretty good. Maybe I'll have to throw that on my binge list while I'm here in quarantine and get to watch that. I try not to watch too much of this stuff because this case alone is enough to make me want to vomit on a regular basis, but I think it's important also to watch other cases that are similar to this because it's obvious, folks, that this is a big problem worldwide. These people with power and money, the way that they treat people, the way that they go about their lives, thinking that there's two sets of rules, one set for them and one set for the rest of us, this can't be the kind of thing that we ignore. And every time that one of these people is outed or these girls come forward, and we're talking about credible accusations here, when these girls come forward with these accusations, these outlets, these legacy media outlets, they need to listen to what's going on because it's important, right? Obviously, there's public interest there, so why wouldn't these legacy media outlets who are always looking for something salacious be all over it? So again, speaking of the R. Kelly documentary, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I'm going to have to give it a watch because I guess it'll kind of give us a template for what we can expect with this new one about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure they'll use the same format since the previous show was so successful. It is understood as many as 10 survivors have held talks about appearing on camera. Others are considering being shot in silhouette. We've talked about that a lot, right? The anonymity aspect of this case and how a lot of people still want to be quiet and they still want to be, have their names not in the public, and you understand why. All you have to do is talk to a couple of these survivors and see how their lives were made hell by Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators, and you'll see why people are still scared to come forward, especially considering there's been no justice in the case. Besides Epstein dying, there's been no justice. Nobody's been arrested. None of the co-conspirators have been scooped up. Ghislaine Maxwell's still skulking about like a rat in a hole. So do you blame them for not wanting to come forward? I certainly don't. An LA-based source said, Andrew has been asked to appear to discuss his friendship, but there has been no formal response. His legal team have told him to conduct no more interviews after he spoke to the BBC. Again, folks, there's a reason for that. Any lawyer that knows what he's doing saw that interview with Emily Maitlis, saw that interview on the BBC, and said there's zero chance I would ever have this guy speak to another reporter or sit on the witness stand, because it's obvious that Andrew is not bright enough to tell his lies on the run. This is not a man who can think on the run. All right? This is a man who is so used to everybody just believing whatever bullcrap comes out of his mouth because he's a royal, he's from the Windsors. He's so used to that working and him being able to bully everybody and just, using his royal blood and his stature to control the narrative. Well, this time his narrative was shot full of holes. Shot full of holes. And there was no coming back from it. And he understands that now because his lawyers have gotten it through his big, fat, thick skull that he is definitely not the kind of person that you want sitting in front of a seasoned journalist or a seasoned interrogator with literally his life on the line, because he's not honest. He's not innocent. In my opinion, there is zero chance that Prince Andrew is innocent. There is zero chance that he's telling the truth. 100%, in my opinion, is Virginia Roberts bringing the facts to the table. She's provided the receipts. She's provided pictures. There's corroborating statements from pilots, other girls, etc., etc. All we got from Andrew is, I can't sweat. I don't wear that kit when I'm about town. And I was eating pizza. Now you tell me which courtroom that's holding up in. There is a concern anything he says on tape or camera becomes potential legal material for the many civil cases facing Epstein and FBI questions regarding Andrew. Yeah, no shit. Of course it will. Of course it'll open him up to all sorts of scrutiny at that point, and maybe legal trouble. So it's very obvious that his lawyers came into this with eyes wide open. They knew what they were getting into. They understood the score. They've seen the evidence in the case. They know that their client's a liar, in my opinion. Or else they'd have him on every single one of these news shows proclaiming his innocence. You know they love to do that. Look at Dershowitz. They love to use their connections in the legacy media to be able to hop on the news station and prattle and yaddle and yelp and tell you how great they are and tell you about all the money they've spent on charity and how that's their shield, and there's no way they can be guilty of what they're being accused of because they're such a great guy. But this time around, that strategy's not going to work. Everybody's on to Prince Andrew. Everybody's on to the Prince of Punk Asses. Everybody knows he's a liar, okay? From the bears in the great Arctic North to the penguins in Antarctica. Everybody knows this guy is a liar. Essentially, all allegations that mention Andrew within the context of Epstein will be dealt with by his lawyers. Yeah, of course. This is the step that you knew was coming next. There was zero chance that this man was ever going to navigate these waters on his own. The Prince of England is not going to have legal counsel that's competent. So this is what the survivors are up against here, folks. They're up against a team of very competent lawyers, people that are going to look for loopholes in the laws in England and France or America, wherever these cases are brought. And they're going to be ready to bite down on their mouthpiece, stand in the middle of the ring, and throw bombs. I hope that the survivors' lawyers are ready to go to the same lengths. I hope that they're all ready to bite down on their mouthpiece, meet them in the middle of the ring, and fire back. And, looking at guys like Bradley Edwards and David Boies, these seem like the kind of dudes that are ready to do that. In 2015, Epstein's alleged former teenage survivor Virginia Roberts said in court documents she was forced by Epstein to have sex with Andrew. The Duke and the Palace emphatically denied her allegations. Epstein, 66, killed himself, allegedly, in jail last August while awaiting trial for underage sex trafficking. The Palace declined to comment. Yeah, that's their usual MO here. The Palace has been very hands-off in this situation. They have been very let Andrew deal with it type of face in the public, and I guess that's what we're going to see from them going forward. They'll probably direct all questions to Andrew's legal team, and Andrew's legal team, as we all know, is chock full of PR crisis specialists, so they'll have a game plan. They're going to formulate a game plan, and they're going to come ready to rock, folks. They're definitely going to come prepared. They're going to come ready to go. They're going to come with whatever loopholes that they can find. And it's really a game now where it's up to the lawyers to get in there and have a battle royale. And I'm confident that the lawyers from the survivors are ready to do this. I think that if this is the route that Prince Andrew, the Prince of Punk Asses, the Prince of Lies, decides he wants to go, then I hope that the prosecution, especially the prosecution, Berman, and, with the prodding of the lawyers for the survivors, are ready to take the fight to Andrew and his legal team. And I think that that can be attained, and I think that that can happen if they do this correctly and they slap all of the co-conspirators with RICO charges, round them all up, and make them rat on each other. Start with the core four, work your way up to Maxwell, apply the screws to Maxwell, have her ratting on Andrew, and, that's how these things work. The question is, does the prosecution have the gumption to do it? Is the prosecution going to chase justice to wherever it goes? If that means it leads to the doors of Buckingham Palace, so be it. If that means it leads to the doors of the White House, so be it. Wherever the evidence leads in this case, and to wherever that evidence falls, those people need to be pursued to the very ends of the earth if that's what it takes. Because nobody on this planet should get away with human trafficking, okay, of young girls, anyone, any human being, right? Especially at this level of government, and so brazenly in everybody's face for so long. This is the sort of thing that can never be allowed to happen again. And if we just let it die out, if we just stop talking about it, if we let the 24-hour news cycle wash it away, then this is just going to keep happening over and over and over again. So that's why it's so important for Berman to pursue justice correctly here. And I think that with enough public outcry, enough pressure, I think that is exactly what's going to occur. When? I don't know. I think this year is the year. That's for sure. I've said that for a long time. I think that the year 2020 is the year that the predator turns to the prey, and I definitely think we're going to see arrests happen this year. When? I don't know. Who? I don't have the answers for that either. But when you look at where we started when this case first broke and where we're at now, and you look at the movement and you look at the players on the chessboard who have been taken out or have been moved into positions that make them ineffectual, it's pretty eye-opening, folks. There's been a lot of movement here. And we're not we're not too long into this case, right? So just got to keep it going, keep the public pressure on these prosecutors, and hope that they do the right thing and chase these sons of bitches to every single corner of the earth and bring them all to justice. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. Also, if you haven't listened to my newest podcast, COVID-19, the pandemic that changed everything, you can now find episode 1 in the description box. There'll be a link for it. All right, everybody, I will talk to you all tomorrow.